They came to rule humanity. For centuries, the Galactic Empire had spread across the stars like an unstoppable storm. Entire civilizations had fallen beneath their fleets. Ancient species with technology far beyond humanity's had surrendered when the Empire arrived. Planets burned, governments collapsed, and the Emperor's banner rose over thousands of conquered worlds. When their armada finally appeared above Earth, the alien commanders expected the same outcome. From the bridge of the Imperial flagship Dominion Spear, Admiral Carveth studied the small blue planet rotating slowly beneath the stars. "So this is the human homeworld," he said with mild curiosity. Earth looked peaceful from orbit. White clouds drifted over vast oceans. Golden lights from cities glittered across the night side of the planet. Fragile, that was the word written in the Empire's archives. According to the long-range probes that had observed the system decades earlier, humanity was young, divided, and technologically inferior. A perfect target. Behind the Admiral's command throne, a massive holographic map displayed the strength of the invasion force. Thousands of alien warships surrounded Earth in perfect formation. Destroyers, dreadnoughts, carriers, and orbital siege platforms. Enough firepower to conquer entire star systems. "Admiral," a communications officer announced, "we are receiving a transmission from the planet." Carveth raised a brow. "So soon?" The officer activated the message. A hologram flickered to life, revealing a human soldier standing inside a dim command center. The man wore dark green armor scratched from battle, but his expression remained calm. "Unknown alien fleet," the human said steadily. "You have entered the sovereign space of Earth." Several alien officers laughed quietly. The human continued speaking without hesitation. "You are ordered to leave immediately. This is your only warning." The bridge of the alien flagship fell silent for a moment. Then the officers began to laugh openly. The Admiral leaned forward. "Transmit our response." Moments later, the human received the Empire's reply. "This system now belongs to the Galactic Empire. Your species will surrender immediately and accept Imperial rule. Resistance will result in the destruction of your world." The human soldier listened carefully. For a few seconds, he said nothing. Then he nodded slowly. "Understood," he replied. The transmission ended. Admiral Carveth smiled with satisfaction. "Prepare the orbital suppression cannons," he ordered. "It is time humanity learns who truly rules the galaxy." None of them realized they had just stepped into a trap humanity had been preparing for decades. The moment the transmission ended, the alien fleet began preparing its attack. Imperial warships shifted into battle formation across Earth's orbit. Massive cannons rotated toward the surface of the planet, ready to fire devastating orbital strikes. Inside the Dominion Spear, Admiral Carveth watched calmly as his fleet prepared to crush the human world. "To think," one officer said proudly, "another species about to join the Empire." Carveth nodded. "Deploy the orbital suppression platforms. Begin Phase 1 of planetary conquest." But before the order could fully execute, alarms suddenly exploded across the command bridge. A sensor officer jumped from his station in panic. "Admiral, multiple energy signatures detected." Carveth frowned. "From where?" "They weren't there before," the officer stammered. "New objects appearing across the system." The main holographic display flickered. Suddenly, dozens of unknown signals appeared around Earth. Then hundreds. Within seconds, the number climbed into the thousands. "Impossible!" another officer whispered. On the giant screen, objects began unfolding in orbit around the planet. What the Empire had believed were simple. Communication satellites suddenly opened armored panels. Inside them were massive energy cannons, thousands of them. Carveth's eyes widened. "Human defense platforms," an officer said in disbelief. Before anyone could react, the first weapon fired. A brilliant beam of blue energy tore through space and slammed into an Imperial destroyer. The warship vanished in a violent explosion. Another beam followed, then another. Within seconds, the darkness of space above. Earth exploded into chaos as thousands of human, orbital weapons opened fire simultaneously. Alien ships began to die. One cruiser exploded, then another. Entire squadrons vanished under precise energy strikes. "Raise shields!" the Admiral roared. But the surprise attack had already shattered the Empire's formation. Missile swarms erupted from Earth's surface, streaking through the atmosphere like glowing comets. They struck the alien fleet with terrifying accuracy. Across orbit, Imperial ships erupted into fireballs. "What is happening?" one officer shouted. Karaveth stared at the battlefield in disbelief. This world was supposed to be defenseless. Instead, humanity had turned their entire planet into a fortress, and the Empire had just flown directly into its guns. The battle above Earth erupted into complete chaos. Human defense platforms fired relentlessly from every direction. Beams of blue energy tore across the void, slicing through alien warships like blades through glass. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. Inside the Dominion sphere, Imperial officers shouted frantic commands as their fleet struggled to respond. "Admiral, we've already lost 40 ships. Enemy missiles approaching from the planet. Defense platforms detected near the moon." The holographic battlefield filled with red warning signals. Karaveth clenched his claws against the armrest of his command throne. "How could this happen?" he growled. The Empire's intelligence reports had described humanity as technologically inferior, but what he was seeing now told a very different story. Another officer spoke with rising panic. "Admiral, new objects emerging from Earth's atmosphere." Everyone turned toward the massive viewing window. From the blue curve of the planet below, hundreds of small shapes burst into orbit. Human starfighters. They climbed through the atmosphere like arrows, engines blazing bright. Within moments, they reached the alien fleet. "Intercept them!" Karaveth shouted. But the human fighters moved with incredible speed. They darted between massive alien warships, firing precision weapons into vulnerable systems. Engines exploded. Shield generators failed. Entire cruisers drifted helplessly through space before detonating in violent bursts of flame. The Empire had never encountered fighters this fast, or this aggressive. A pilot's voice suddenly appeared across Imperial communication channels. "Human strike wing entering combat zone." The transmission was calm, confident. On the battlefield outside, the fighters worked like hunters among giants. Alien destroyers exploded one after another. Within minutes, the once orderly Imperial formation collapsed completely. Then something even worse happened. Another wave of new signals appeared on the sensors. "Admiral," an officer whispered, "large vessels emerging from hyperspace." The holographic display zoomed outward. Far beyond Earth, enormous shapes appeared. Human warships. Hundreds of them. Hidden fleets that had been waiting in the darkness of the solar system. Karaveth stared at the display in horror. This was not a defensive reaction. This was an ambush. Humanity had expected an invasion, and they had been preparing for it for decades. As the hidden human fleets entered the battlefield, the balance of power shifted completely. Massive human warships surged into orbit, their weapons blazing. Railguns fired slugs the size of missiles, tearing through alien hulls with unstoppable force. Plasma cannons lit the darkness with blinding flashes. Within minutes, dozens more Imperial ships were destroyed. Inside the Dominion sphere, panic spread across the command bridge. "Admiral, our shields are failing. Enemy dreadnought approaching. Multiple hull breaches across the fleet." Karaveth stared at the burning battlefield outside the viewing window. Thousands of Imperial ships had arrived to conquer Earth. Now many of them were drifting wreckage. Then a new transmission forced its way onto every Imperial screen. The same human soldier appeared again. Behind him, enormous windows revealed the battle raging above Earth. Alien ships burned in orbit. "You made a mistake," the human said calmly. Karaveth snarled at the screen. "What mistake?" The soldier looked directly into the camera. "You assumed humanity was weak." Another explosion lit up the sky behind him. "For centuries, you conquered species that feared you." Outside the window of the alien flagship, a human cruiser fired a railgun volley that shattered an Imperial destroyer. "But humans are different." The soldier picked up a glowing rifle resting beside him. "We prepare." He gestured toward the battlefield behind him. "You watched our planet with probes for decades. You saw our wars. You saw our weapons. But you missed the most important thing." The soldier leaned closer to the camera. "When humans believe someone might attack us, we build defenses." As he spoke, even more human weapons activated across the system. Gigantic railguns hidden on the moon began firing. Defense stations rose from beneath Earth's oceans. And beyond Mars, entire fleets of human warships accelerated toward the battlefield. The trap was far larger than the Empire had imagined. Karaveth finally understood the terrible truth. Humanity had not been surprised by the invasion. They had been waiting for it. The end came quickly after that. Across the solar system, the remaining Imperial fleet attempted to retreat. But human forces were everywhere. Defense platforms continued firing from Earth's orbit. Human dreadnoughts advanced through the battlefield like unstoppable giants, their weapons tearing apart any alien ship that tried to escape. Inside the Dominion sphere, alarms screamed without pause. "Admiral! Hull integrity failing! Enemy dreadnought locking weapons!" Through the viewing window, an enormous human warship emerged from hyperspace. It was larger than anything the Empire had encountered. A human super dreadnought. Its main cannon began to glow with blinding white energy. On the screen, the human soldier spoke one final time. "You came to rule humanity." Behind him, the massive human warship finished charging its weapon. "But you forgot something important." The soldier's voice remained calm. "When humans fight for their home," the super dreadnought fired. A beam of pure white energy ripped across space and struck the Dominion sphere directly. The flagship split apart instantly. "We don't lose." Across the battlefield, the remaining alien ships began to flee in panic. But escape was impossible. Human fleets pursued them relentlessly. Within hours, the once mighty invasion armada was gone. Nothing remained except broken wreckage drifting through space. On Earth, billions of people watched the sky as the final alien cruiser exploded high above the atmosphere. Silence returned to the stars. Inside the human command center, the soldier lowered his rifle and looked out the window at the peaceful planet below. Earth was still turning quietly beneath the clouds, unconquered. A communications officer approached him. "Sir, the alien fleet has been completely destroyed." The soldier nodded. He looked once more at the scattered debris of the defeated Empire. "They came to rule humanity," he said quietly. Then he turned away from the window. But humanity erased their empire. And across the galaxy, the surviving worlds of the Galactic Empire would remember that day forever, because they had learned the most dangerous lesson in the universe. Never try to conquer the species that fights hardest for its home.